Thank you for everybody tuning in to the Zoom call here. I have John Mattica. He is with the Honduran Fellowship of Missionaries and Ministries. I hope I said that right, John. I always just say
Yes.
HFMM. It's easier for me. And him and his wife started this organization here in Honduras. He's got a lot of great insight for you on this Zoom call. So please make sure you stay tuned. Are you wanting to develop your own short-term mission teams? Or maybe you have taken teams out, but you want to go to a next level of success? Well, what we've done is we've developed this mission packet for you on steroids. It covers from A to Z. It's over 50 pages long. You can download this today, brand it to your own ministry, and modify it to your needs. All you got to do is go to the description of this YouTube video, click on the link, go to our website, and download it today. Get started in short-term missions today. Well, welcome everybody. We got the Zoom call here with John Mattica and also his wife. She is Adriana, and they are the E.F. Huttons of Missionaries in Honduras. I was thinking about this before we even had the Zoom call, because obviously, John, when you speak and when Adriana speaks, we listen. So welcome. I just wanted to, give people an insight because you have a unique ministry. You have a unique situation in Honduras. To where you are, you're like the safety net for missionaries here in this country. You're like one of the first people, you and your wife are some of the first people we meet when we get to country, if we want to get connected with your ministry. And you aid and help basically missionaries to get established in the country. And then obviously we've been connected to you guys for 7 years. And, I've definitely messaged you at night saying, hey, I'm in trouble. What do I need to do? So obviously you have blessed my wife and I so much so, and I know you've blessed many missionaries as well. So if you don't mind, just share your ministry and what you guys are doing here in Honduras.
Certainly. As said, my name is John Mattica. My wife is Adriana. We have 2 kids. Catherine and Stephen. Stephen is our oldest. He is in college, and Catherine is graduating from high school this year and moving on to college this summer. We have been in Honduras for 18 and a half years. We are involved in 3 different ministries. Actually, we lead Honduran Fellowship of Missionaries and Ministries, which I'll talk more about. We also pastor an English-speaking congregation here in the capital. That was started by a Honduran church. It's not a church plant by any North Americans. It was started as an outreach to the English-speaking community by a Honduran church. And then we also have our nonprofit in the States, which is called Running for Him 24/7. Our church is called CCI Fellowship.
Okay.
So like I said, we've been here for 18 years. When we first came, we were doing pastoral training. And then over the first 5 years of doing that, God began to shift our focus, and we started this organization called Honduran Fellowship of Missionaries and Ministries.
Okay, and then like I know you as one of the most important keys is to get us registered in this country. As residents, that's one of the main focuses that obviously most our missionaries reach out to you is one of the first and foremost things.
Right.
But obviously there's so many other things that, like even with COVID, you were like one of the key points for us missionaries because things were changing daily. So I think that you are kind of like a contact to the Honduran government to eliminate conspiracy theories. Because we all love conspiracy theories. Obviously COVID, we saw that run rampant. As far as, missionaries, God bless them all. But, once you start hearing something that concerns you, the first thing you're going to do is run to Facebook and start going to the group. We have like a mission group here, a couple mission groups that we post on in Facebook. So, John's like, no, guys, no, that's not true. And then obviously you're putting clarity to things. So anyway, I just see you as when I opened said like you're a safety net for us. So Beyond residencies, helping us get established as residents, what are some other things that you see your ministry doing in Honduras?
Well, when we came to Honduras for the first time, we were part of an organization, but we were the only people that were part of that organization in this country. They had missionaries in other countries around the world. So the the benefit that we provide through Honduran Fellowship is so that missionaries don't feel alone.
Uh-huh.
When they come, there's a point of reference for them to learn what it is to live in Honduras. Every country has a different culture. So we try to help people understand what the culture of Honduras is like, even ones who have been in other countries previously, and they come thinking that they understand missions or thinking they understand the Latin American culture, but things are very unique here in Honduras because of it being a unique culture from other countries. And so we try to give people some insight, some guidance on how to do ministry here in a way that is going to be effective. We also, again, apart from residency and some of the logistic things, we also help people establish their ministries, get their ministries registered with the government. We do a lot of networking between missionaries.
Mhm.
So again, so that there's sharing of information, so there's cooperation. Everyone has their own call, everyone has their own ministry, and that is the way God designed it. But there's nothing that prevents us from helping each other in exchanging resources or exchanging information so that we can all improve and do better the things that God has called us to. We also provide, to a certain extent, missionary care from people who understand missions.
Mhm.
There are ministries that have missionary care for the people that they send out, and that's a great thing. But it's not always the case where a missionary that is here has a pastor at home or a part of their church at home, a group of people that understands what it is like to be a missionary. And so
Yeah.
we're here on the ground in the same field that they're in the kind of like uh, a battlefield medic is there on the front line with the soldiers that are fighting and understands the battle there. You know, you go back to the MASH unit, you go back to the hospital. That's like going home to your home church to recuperate and recover. But you
Yeah.
still need that on the field medic that tends to things and gets people, if they're possible, gets them back to doing the work that's before them.
Yeah.
As you said, as far as the government, we try to be an advocate for the missions community with the government to make them aware of certain things. And there have been concessions made or allowances made to take into consideration the work that missionaries are doing in country. And in the like I said, we've been here for 18 and a half years. And in those 18 and a half years, we've seen the government do a lot to recognize the missions community and allow some freedoms in that arena for us to be able to minister unrestrained.
Yeah. And one thing that you know, I've come in contact with many missionaries that's coming. And it's like the first thing I say to them, you've got to join HFMM. You've got to join. It's just something that I always push. We obviously, you may know Patty. I don't know if you knew that we're
Mm-hmm.
kind of interconnected with her as far as helping her get started here. I mean, that was just the first
Right.
thing we said. You got to contact HFMM because I feel like uh, there's the missionaries that come down with the bravado that, hey, look, I've got it made. I know what I'm doing. I don't need no
Right.
help. That's
Right.
great. But, and sometimes I kind of catch myself having that attitude as well. But myself, I've learned to value you and your ministry like immediately and how you have helped us establish quickly here in Honduras. Because, I think it's kind of I think it's just natural, a new missionary on ground, he's going to be contacting you constantly. And I know I did that all the time. I was messaging you constantly. And then
Right.
as time went by, obviously just things became smoother. We became more interconnected with people here locally. We were able to find resources here locally and then become more comfortable. One thing you pointed out, and I want to mention this because I think it's very powerful. And I think again, people make the mistake to think that all people think the same as them. So I know I don't remember her name, and I really don't want to mention her name to embarrass her. But I think what she was doing was awesome, is because she was on your committee to help missionaries to deal with things, you know.
Uh-huh.
And again, you know,
Right.
I'm former military. I'm headstrong. My wife says, not, you know, you're like only one person, you know, out of 100 that thinks the way you think. But she was putting questions on, you know, the Facebook group, and just kind of like, how do you deal with things, you know? And
Yeah.
you know, and I was reading the responses, and I think the Lord just said, look, you know, I think God talks to me this way, but it's like, look, dude, just chill out. You know, not everybody thinks the way you think. You have to
Right.
realize that there are some people that this is a shock to them, you know, dealing with the culture, you know, thinking that, hey, we're going to hit ground running and things are just
Yep.
going to go smooth right away. And you know, you learn like within the first 2 weeks, that's just not going to happen.
Right.
You know, you're going to get slammed with culture. You're going to get, you know, I don't want to bash Hondurans. It's kind of a Latin culture, kind of like mañana mentality. We can get this taken care of tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, and then really, well, let's take care of this tomorrow. And then by the time it's said and done, you may be 2 weeks into beginning the project. So I think it's really incredible of what your ministry does in that sense of where people do get smacked in the face with culture, or they get smacked in the face with reality of trying to establish things here in country. What is that again? The care group, is that what you call it?
Yeah. Missionary care.
Yeah. So that is just a really incredible thing. And like I said, I just think I think through the Holy Spirit just kind of showed me, because, you know, again, you know, people on Facebook, they're brave. They can comment anything. And, you know, I'm very careful on what I comment. Uh, but sometimes I, you know, don't really watch my comments like I should. But it's like the Lord said, just be careful, because there are people here that she's helping them understand of getting them settled, because, you know, you hate to see a missionary come really call of God, you know, God's mandated on their lives, and then the unfortunate part is they go back home. but
Right.
but in all reality, they shouldn't have went back home. They should have stayed, because this is a mandate of God on their life. but
Right.
but your ministry is there to kind of massage that, to help them understand and
Exactly.
see the insights, to say, look, did you recognize this, and maybe you should consider this. And then in time you can strengthen them to, you know, to be able to make the decision, no, I'm going to stay in country, you know, because you hate to
Right.
see a missionary go home and you really feel in your heart, man, they were like, really, I felt like they should be here. You know, again, you got to be
Right.
careful how you point that out. So that is a
Yeah.
really great aspect of the ministry, and a tremendous need for the ministry. Because, you know, again, it's a mistake to look at your ministry to say, hey, he's the residency guy. Because I don't think that's the case. As you just showed, it's just much more than that.
Yeah. We look at a lot of the logistic things kind of as, you know, people are looking immediately for logistical help. They're not really looking for that person to come alongside of them and fellowship with them, and you know, get with them and say, yeah, we understand what you're going through. But they are looking for help
Yeah.
with the logistics. And so that's kind of our door into the lives of missionaries, is helping them with the practical things. And then the longer that we're with them, they see, hey, I could use some guidance. I could use some counseling in this area. I could use some friends. I could use some networking with other missionaries in my
Yeah.
area. So
Yeah.
it's hard to sell. Uh, you know, forgive me for using this term, but it's hard to sell something to somebody that believes they don't need what you're selling.
Yeah.
And so you have to, until you're able to show them that the need exists, they're not really fully going to uh, commit to purchasing what you're trying to market.
Yeah.
Um, but the longer people are part of Honduran Fellowship and they see that we are more than residency or more than the practical help, you know, and the more stories they hear from other people who had to go through this process and how long it took, and how we've been able to really walk through processes with people and streamline them for them, they do see that value in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to how much pain are you willing to go through, because like my daughter, you remember Alexa, she moved to Guatemala, and then obviously she couldn't stay a resident here in Honduras. She had to move everything over to Guatemala. Everything was pretty simple there. It went very smooth. I know that
Right.
Guatemala in some ways is a little bit more advanced in some
Yeah.
areas, so she had a very fortunate experience with that. But I've met some individuals here that, I said, look, you need to get in touch with HFMM like right now. And, they refused to do so. And then as time went by, you saw the pain begin to develop in their lives. And then it was kind of like when the rubber meets the road, they like realized the pain they're dealing with. They didn't need to deal with that. And then it's kind of like, after so many months, okay, I throw my hands up. I should have done this, but it's unfortunate where you see missionaries that won't connect, and then you see them going through issues that they didn't have to go through.
Right.
I know that was one of our questions, not necessarily this answer is obviously not to say, hey, they should have, missionaries' mistake is that they won't connect with our ministry. But what are some mistakes that you see that new missionaries make when they come to country?
Um, when I was looking at your questions, I was trying to decide which one to choose. You said one of the biggest mistakes. New missionaries are fabulous because new missionaries have a ton of passion and they have a ton of zeal, and they have this, like, they're not spoiled yet by the realities of the mission field.
Uh-huh.
And so they have all of this gusto. And I think a lot of times we as the veteran missionaries can learn from that, and get that fire stoked within us some more to receive from that. However, in all of that passion, in all of that zeal, one of the biggest mistakes is not learning from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Not heeding the advice of somebody else that says, I've been down that road before, and I can tell you it's not going to end well, but they just press on through and think, no, it'll be different for me, until they hit that brick wall,
Yeah.
like everyone has when they've gone down that road. So that's one of the biggest mistakes, I think. One of the other ones is coming with unrealistic expectations. Um, Within all of that passion and zeal, they want to, within the first month, they want to have the whole village saved. They
Yeah.
want to have the revival. We want it to happen in one day,
Yeah.
and it doesn't happen that way. I was thinking of, when Jesus went to the Gadarene and he delivered this guy from demons, and the guy said, "I want to follow you." He said, "No, you stay here. You stay here and tell everyone what God did for you." And then Jesus was able to come back, and a ministry started in that area because that one person stayed put and just testified. So there's all that zeal and passion, but sometimes you just recognize that it's not going to happen within a day. It's not going to happen within maybe not even within a couple years. That you have to lay the groundwork, and you have to. It's the long plan, not the sprint.
Yeah. And, you're not in the thing that I want everybody to understand. You're not like trying to blow people's flames out when you say this. This is reality. This is the truth. And I mean, I myself, I remember my dad, I love my dad for so many reasons. One thing that he would always say, learn from other people's mistakes. Just
Right.
Sean, learn from other people's mistakes. And I remember me as a teenager, but I want to make my own mistakes, But that's just something I do. I think I learn in my heart. That's just something I live by. I want to hear what people say. I want to hear the mistakes that they've made, and then obviously make decisions based on that. And again, you come in contact with hundreds of missionaries. I come in contact with a handful, but I definitely remember some. I just say, look, don't do this, don't purchase this, or don't do that. And then they just go ahead and do it anyway. And then, a year later, they're repurchasing what I told them to purchase, and it's just like, look, we are seasoned missionaries. I mean, I'm like slowly becoming seasoned, but I'm just saying, I've done the dumb stuff. I bought the dumb stuff. I've made the dumb
Yeah.
mistake. I can help you avoid the dumb things. So obviously that can be a great thing that you said. The biggest mistake that missionaries make is that they just don't listen to other missionaries. Another thing that I'm just thinking in my mind, and one thing that I've noticed about missionaries is, I'm in Copanrinas. I'm like on the far western edge of the country. There's like only a few of us out here. I don't even know if there's any missionaries in town here other than Patty that came here recently. I don't even know if there's any other missionaries here. But like in San Pedro, invariably you're going to go to Price Mart. You're going to run into gringos, and they're missionaries. But it's just like we won't even say hi to each other. It's just
Right.
like it's just, why would you not? You recognize, look, these guys are obviously missionaries. Why would we not want to connect with them just to even just say hello? And I think that's
Yeah.
one of another mistakes that missionaries make. And I don't know if it's American mentality. Like our daughter, she lived in an apartment complex in Ohio, and I'm like, who's your neighbor across the street? I don't know. Well, who lives next to you? I don't know. Well, who's scraping the windows downstairs, the ice off the windshield? I don't know. You don't know your neighbors? And it's just like we take that same mentality here, and we know we're missionaries, but we just won't even acknowledge each other in the stores or anything like that. But one
Right.
thing that I saw that was really amazing is during COVID and then the hurricanes is obviously, many missionaries linked up with missionaries and say, look,
Right.
I don't have this big organization to go out and feed the masses, but you do. I want to come along. I want to help. I want to bring my resources. And then obviously we had some missionaries that was in La Lima that, their house flooded out. And it was so awesome to see missionaries pack up from Tegucigalpa and say, we're coming up to help clean out your house and
Absolutely.
move your furniture. So, obviously in the hard times, we witnessed a lot of missionaries just coming together. So I would think that would be another mistake that I think missionaries make, is they don't network like they should,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and friend each other. But I think one thing that you do, and a lot of I want people to understand, is that yearly, now because of COVID, things have changed, but you have the annual gathering of missionaries to
Right.
come together. And I mean, obviously there's many reasons why you do that. There's a lot of classes to be involved and help missionaries in that sense. But one of the main things is just the socialization and networking is just
Right.
unbelievable. Becoming friends with people of the same fabric and same thought and mentality of reaching the lost and the people of Honduras. So when do you think you'll start those again, as far as actually meeting there again in Sihuatepeque?
We we're hoping, although the way things are going, it doesn't seem like a very realistic hope. We were hoping to be able to do another retreat in September,
Uh-huh.
but just the way things are trending, it probably won't be until next February of 2022 before we can meet again.
Okay. And see
But
that
yeah,
that
that is that event. We've had people tell us this is the highlight of my year,
yeah.
being able to get to that. And like you said, it's here in Honduras, so it's not like you have to buy a ticket to go to a different country and attend something. It's right here in people's backyards. They can spend the weekend and go straight back to ministry. So
Yeah. And again, I'll just share a little bit more. It's like a retreat that obviously your organization puts the bill. I never got
yeah,
a bill to go and attend. So I mean, just incredible to think that your ministry does that, puts a bill, brings in a guest speaker, and then obviously we have like action like meetings during the day, as far as like you have speakers talk about various subjects to cover pretty much a missionary life and the missionary work. And then obviously we get time to spend time with each other. And then we have like evening service as well. So it's really how many days was it? Like 2 days, 3 days?
So it's 3 days, full three
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. three
Thursday
days.
night it starts. Sunday morning it ends.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just a time that we can get together. And like, I know that there's missionaries that I've developed relationships because of it. And like, there's a missionary that they left and they came back and, it just allows us to interconnect and get together on Facebook and, hey, look, I'm having a problem with this, hey, I'll call you real quick here, or I'll Facebook
Right.
you and we'll do a video call. Like, the pre-check questionnaires, he was having a problem getting it printed off. And because of these relationships that we build through this retreat, it just enables us to interconnect, even though I'm like 7-8 hours away
Right.
from most of the missionaries in country, or 3 or 4 hours away from, but we can still interconnect. So, I mean,
Right.
it's just a massive need for your organization. Now, I know I'm kind of going off script here, but just thoughts in my mind. I know that you were entertaining as well. Was it not Belize or El Salvador of extending this into, or?
Yeah, there's a missionary fellowship that does exist in El Salvador. They had started up. They had done a retreat. At the point of their second retreat, the guy's name is Michael Peterson. He's the one that's leading that over there. They found us online. He was searching for like ministries in the area. Found us online, so we went over and attended their retreat. We have a great relationship with them. They're growing and they're doing things that are specific to El Salvador for the
Uh-huh.
missionary community there. Then he and I took an exploratory trip into Belize to see the feasibility of starting something there, see what the government temperature was like toward missionaries. We've also discussed Nicaragua, and eventually my heart's desire is that this missionary fellowship exists in all of Central America. So,
Amen.
all 7 countries of Central America. There is a missions organization in Guatemala that already exists. In fact, it was established in, I want to say something like 1920. They've been going for a long, long time.
Wow.
And we connected with them last February, right before everything shut down for COVID. In fact, that was our last trip before we all got locked in our houses because of COVID. But had a fabulous time over there, and looking, viewing the work that they've been doing and the things that they have experienced over the many, many decades. And the cool thing was, even though they had so many more years in existence, being able to sit down at the table and say, well, does this work for you? And does this not work for you? And compare notes and learn from each other. And that's really what part of this is all about.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't remember exactly why, but I connected with them for various questions or something that we were dealing with, looking into Guatemala. I was amazed. It was a very well organized. A lot of information was readily available. So
Yeah.
it is definitely needed. I mean, there's no doubt the need of this type of organization in all countries to help missionaries to get established. Because again, I think we're light years ahead in what we're doing here in the Copan area because of your organization. I would hate to try to figure out,
Praise God.
I would hate to try to figure out what to do. I remember, because, obviously everything done in this country can be done either the right way or it can be done the wrong way, but it may be quicker. But you're always
Right.
like, no, we're going to do the things the right way in this country. And I remember, with the because I'm on the border and a lot of expats here, they just kind of like go over to the border and kind of like pay somebody to stamp their passport. And I remember I told people, no, we're not doing that. We're doing things right. And
Yeah.
we're not getting that because basically that's just going to get us in trouble because we didn't do it right. And we're not going to mess up our residency process. And John said, do things right. So, and again, I just think you have that influence with the government to help them see the reason why they need to help us. And I
Right.
think I think like the immigration office in San Pedro Sula is just incredible. But I think the result of that is because of you interworking with the immigration to help them see the importance of having a professional, streamlined process for us. And I remember from the beginning of trying to get residency, and now it's so streamlined. It's just
Yeah,
absolutely amazing how simple it is to get things done. And
right.
and again, I know, I'm patting you on the back, but I want to pat you on the back because I believe it's because of your organization. So, I'm going to change a little bit here. I think, the focus of what we're trying to do is helping ministries see the importance of them in missions, because
Right.
I think, people don't realize the importance of the connection. And I shared in the last video about how, we're from the United States, and I think a lot of people don't realize what the world is like. I'm not trying to demean people, but when I didn't know what the world was like until I saw missions. I
Right.
didn't. My first mission trip was Mexico. I had no clue, and then obviously we're in it. We're in it daily, and people just don't see what we see on a daily basis. There's a lot of times you want to share, but my wife's like, don't share that on Facebook, because you don't want to scare people. And
Right.
but I just think that America's blessed for many reasons, and I think obviously one reason, the blessings of America, is to fuel the gospel around the world. I mean, there's
Right.
no other economy in this world such as America, and
Right.
obviously there's financial resources that's available in the United States. It's nowhere available elsewhere in the world. So, I mean, you on the other side and being in the thick of it and knowing missions, what is the importance of ministries in the United States of connecting with mission work?
Um, it is of utmost importance, even in the decline, because we've seen a decline of new missionaries coming to Honduras. There's always people leaving, but usually the turnover makes up for it. You have a percentage that leave, you have a percentage that come. Um, but in the past couple of years, we've seen a decline in the new ones coming in, and just people vacating. Um, but even in that, the U.S. still sends the most money around the world for missions, and the U.S. still sends the most missionaries around the world for missions. Um, it's vitally important for churches in the U.S. to be involved in missions, for a couple of reasons. One, it is still the mandate that is upon the church to
Mhm.
go into the world and preach the gospel. That has not been completed. It's not. It's not been fulfilled. If it was, I believe we'd see Jesus
Yeah.
coming back. So it's obvious that there's still work to be done. Um, when Jesus spoke to the disciples before ascending, he said, "You'll be my witnesses in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria and the utmost parts of the earth." So we still carry that mandate from God, upon the church, to go into the world to preach the gospel, and not just to go across the street. And I think really sometimes people have this vision of going far, but don't do the near stuff as well. Um, but the important thing is do what you're called to. But
Yeah.
churches need to get involved with missions. It is part of God's design and desire for them as a church. It opens up their understanding that there is a world out there that is much bigger than the small community that they live in. Um, there's things going on in the world that are greater and bigger than um, the USA. There's, when you only view the world from inside the context of the borders of the US, you see the world through a very um, specific lens. When
Yeah.
you get involved in missions, God's able to open your eyes some more and see things from His perspective. The important thing as believers is that we always have a kingdom perspective, not a political location perspective. That we
Amen.
see the world um, based on God's view of it, not based on the spin or what am I trying to say? Based on the lens that you look through that somebody else puts in front of your eyes. So
Yeah.
being involved in missions really helps people gain a kingdom mentality. There are no political boundaries in God's kingdom.
Yeah.
You're either in his kingdom or you're not in his kingdom. It's not I'm part of God's kingdom, but I'm a US citizen. Yes, I'm a US citizen. That's my natural political identity as a natural person. But I'm a citizen of the kingdom of God, which means I am a citizen of the whole world. So it
Amen.
takes away these boundaries and takes away um, these distinctions and helps us see that God's kingdom is on the move all over the place. And when God wants us to be a part of it, it's not I'm from this country going to this country. It's I lived in this part of God's kingdom, and now He has moved me to this part of God's kingdom. And so being able to connect in that mentality is of vital importance for the church to grow and for the gospel to continue to be spread around the world.
Amen. And I think both you and I will avoid being political, but I think I know exactly what you see, because I kind of like the before mission, Sean, and after or during mission, Sean. And we went through some political things because of COVID, and then obviously the election and stuff like that. And I know for a fact, I think I see things totally different now, and I
Right,
respond totally different. And I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else. I'm just saying
right,
I just see things a little bit differently. And there's a gentleman that's a missionary here here in Honduras, and I've seen some of his postings, and you want to respond right away, because the old Sean's kind of coming back, wanting a type of way. And then it's just like, wait a minute, let's sit back and really see what he's seeing here. And I mean,
right,
it gives you a whole different view of the world, and you kind of see the heart of the people that are going through things that, you and I drive through a country that we see things that we've never experienced. We may see it on a constant basis, but we've never been down to that level. And we still don't, even though you've been here 18 years, I've been here going on 8 years, we still don't even know how mentally they can even process what they're going through.
right,
And
right.
it's sometimes we see some very troubling stuff. And but I think you mentioned something where I read a book by Dan Betzer. He was an Assemblies of God pastor, and he said, why your church is blessed. I can't remember the exact title, but he just basically blatantly said, he made it sound like if you're not supporting missions, your church isn't blessed. Now I'm not saying I can jump aboard on that. That's pretty strong. I loved his book
Right.
for many reasons, and I suggest many people read it. But like Jesus did point out, Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and other ends of the earth. And I think my other conversation was with Stacy Bonet. It's like, I believe that everybody can have some part of missions. And like, even with what she does, she takes teams to the mission field. And what she does, she contacts pastors and says, look, I'm not actively involved in missions, but I want to support sending my church on mission teams. So what she does, she gives that outlet for pastors to host their teams. So they're still involved. They're still getting a feel of missions. They're still seeing another part of God's kingdom, as you say. And I think that some form or fashion, we can all take part in missions. Again, you know,
Right.
and missions are so multifaceted
Right.
that I think that all ministries can do something to be involved in missions. Again, it doesn't have to be your primary focus, but I think it can be.
Right.
There's something that can be done as far as connect with the mission field.
The other thing that comes up, like you said, we know hundreds of missionaries. The membership in Honduran Fellowship, we have about 280 memberships, and that represents 1,000 foreigners that are living in Honduras doing ministry. So we've met a few people, but a large majority of those are here because they went first on a short-term mission trip at some point in time. In fact, my wife and I, she was 11 when she went to Argentina on her first short-term trip. I was 16 when I came here to Honduras on my first short-term trip. And in those places, God's able to speak to people and say, I want you to go into missions. I want you to move beyond where you are. And it's no respecter of persons as far as age. There are people that are, they were getting ready to move to retirement, and God put it on their heart to come on a short-term trip. And while they were here, God spoke to them and said, you need to make this long term. And they're here and they're established, and they're doing great things for God. So part of being involved in missions is also because the fields are white with harvest, and we do need to send harvesters into those fields. So
Yeah.
churches that are involved in missions have opportunity to harvest in fields that they may not have thought were possible at one point in time.
Amen. And as you're saying this, just thoughts coming to my mind. I come from a very mission orientated ministry. And I believe you do too, because doesn't your pastor sponsor like a annual mission?
Yes.
Yeah. So you come from a
Yeah.
very mission minded ministry as well. But again, this isn't a slight against any ministries that are not actively involved in missions. We're not doing that.
Right.
That's not what John and I are saying, but I believe in
Not
my
at all.
heart, there are churches filled with people in the United States that there are missionaries sitting there, but they just don't know it.
Right.
Like I said, I came from a mission minded church. My pastor's heavily passionate for missions. And I went on a trip to Mexico. I was not interested in missions. I mean, I supported the work that my wife was doing, and I supported the work of the church. Obviously, I did, I was there to support and help, but I'm just saying I wasn't signing up for the next mission trip. It's probably a better way to say it. But, but, but my pastor on a Christmas Eve, party that we were having for our church, he said, I'm going to Honduras. And the Spirit of God spoke in my heart and said, you go to Honduras. And I went, and that's how I became a missionary. But I'm just thinking of
Yeah.
all these churches, where there are people sitting there that are missionaries, but they just don't know it. And to me, and again, it's how do you encourage pastors and ministers just to realize, hey, there are potentially people in my ministry that are called to missions, and I need to help them to recognize that. I need to help them see that. I may not
Yeah.
want to go to missions because I know pastors that aren't interested in going on a mission trip, and that's fine, because again, we have to do what the Spirit of God calls us to do. I mean,
Exactly.
it's just like with the hurricane that came in. I called the missionary, and I was crying on the phone. I got to come up there. I got to help pass out food and the whole 9 yards. And I prayed about it. He shared with me, said, Sean, I don't think it's the right time for you to go out right now. Right now things are crazy. Just let things settle down. Let the Lord deal with your heart. And, God showed me you got responsibilities here. So
Right.
again, I get when a church says, we don't have that passion in our heart. But why can't a church say, look, but we still need to recognize there could be missionaries in our church that we need to help them see that and help them get into the field,
Yeah.
and I think
Absolutely.
that's something that can be said and to be encouraged, so, I wanted, I love people to see, aspects of the mission field that maybe they've never seen. And I put in there, what one story do regarding missions has made a major impact, on your life or that you've seen in your time in the mission field?
In my time in the mission field, um, I had written some down, but it was way far before I was.
Or no,
More in history or
anything
history of missions.
yeah.
I What really impacted me, and I know this is going all the way back to Paul, but I had the opportunity with my wife and some friends to go to Greece a number 5, 6 years ago, I think. and we basically followed his second missionary journey. So we went to not all of the cities, but most of them. We went to Philippi, we were in Thessalonica, in Berea, in Athens, and in Corinth. And seeing the impact that Paul had in those areas that was evident even today.
Wow.
Philippi and Corinth, they are basically just ruins. They aren't thriving cities anymore. Athens, Berea, Thessalonica. Thessalonica is a huge city, right on the coast, and of course Athens is Athens. But when we were touring the ruins of Philippi, one, what was so amazing is that you could still feel the presence of God there. Um, it's a history marker. Basically, you go through, you see all these placards that are there that tells you what this area of town was like, what this part of society was like, and everything. So I mean, at this point, it's you could call it a tourist attraction. People go and visit it, but uh, Paul going there left such a mark on that town that even to today you can feel God's presence there. But in all of the descriptions, or most of the descriptions, the amphitheater, it said at this point in history the amphitheater was used for this. At this point in history, it was used for this. And of course, they had the Greek games and the Olympic games and everything. They had the where the animals would come out and all the violence that was done in those amphitheaters. And then at the end of the description, it said, and then Paul showed up preaching the gospel. And then this became used for this. And then this became used for this. It was no longer used for this thing that was horrible. It began to be used for this thing that was good. So it not only did Paul arrive there and share the gospel with people, but it created a shift in the whole of society. Social economic things were changed. The way that people related to each other changed. The events that they were involved in for entertainment changed. It had an impact on that town that completely transformed what life was like in that society. So, getting to go there, one, just because it's being able to go to a place that is historic biblically, but also to see how much of an impact the gospel has to shape a society, not just to make disciples within a society, not just to make converts or Christians within the society, but how that can actually absolutely change the fabric of a people group. And I believe that can still happen around the world, and that's why we still need to be involved in missions.
Amen. Amen. And I agree, because I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but I'm just trying to give this example. Like us starting radio here, you kind of hear word back. People that talk to the young lady that works for our organization here, I mean, the things that they're sharing with her, about radio and how that radio is making an influence across all boundaries here locally.
Right.
And, I think a lot of missionaries come here, they do work, they just have no idea of what they're doing. And I don't remember the exact story, but it was like a missionary that went back to the States. He had a life work in some island or something, and had a life work there, went back to the States, felt like he was a failure. And then they went back to that place, like, 20, 30, 40 years later, and the whole entire community was thriving for the gospel of Christ. And it was just like, he was a hero. He's like a hero to our community. He's the one that brought the gospel. So, I mean, I think that people don't realize the impact that is being made through mission work. And, I think sometimes people are burnt by mission work, being involved in maybe some mission work that they got burnt on. They don't want to be involved anymore. But they don't realize that there is incredible mission work that is occurring in this world. It's just like with me talking to the gentleman from I can't disclose his country, but he's in an Asia in some area in the world, and it's just incredible the work that they're doing there. And so anyway, I just encourage anybody that's watching this video right now to say, to you, if you feel like God is pricking your heart and moving on your heart to get involved in missions, please, enter in and allow the Lord to lead and guide you wherever that may be in the world. Allow him to use you to touch people somewhere in this world that God is calling you to be a part of. And John's connected to missionaries all over Honduras, and they're all doing unique works in their communities. And some of them are in like little teeny communities, and some of them are in large communities. Some of them are doing great noticeable work, and some of them are not necessarily noticeable, but they're still doing a major impact in the kingdom of God. So anyway, hopefully this inspired some people that are watching this. I know John's a very busy man, so we're going to go ahead and end this video, but we greatly appreciate you taking the time and watching, and then obviously John is experienced in helping missionaries get established in the mission field. So I'm not saying flood his phone, but I know that he has a heart for missionaries, and
absolutely,
he's got some great wisdom and insight about people considering the mission field. And it may not necessarily be Honduras; it could be anywhere in the world. That's what our heart is. Our heart is for the world. Our heart isn't just saying, "Hey, look at our ministry and look at what we're doing," or "Look at our country." So anyway,
right.
Well, thank you so much, John. I greatly appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure
to have you, on this Zoom call. It was a great honor to have you. I believe that you and your wife are just major people here in this country that's making an impact for Jesus Christ. So thanks
Amen.
a lot.
Praise God for that. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay. God bless you. Have a great day.